Everybody, we are here with the writer-director duo Wesley Taylor and Alex Wyse. They have a new film coming out called Summoning Sylvia, and that's going to be set for theatrical release, limited theatrical release on March 31st, and on demand April 7th. Gentlemen, how are you guys?
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're great. This is very exciting. It's exciting to talk to you and about the movie, and
Oh,
here we are.
thanks. So let's talk about the project. Tell me what Summoning Sylvia is.
Summoning Sylvia is a queer horror comedy. It's a fast-moving romp about four best friends. Three best friends kidnap their beloved Larry and take him to an upstate haunted house because he loves all things horror. And they summon up the spirit of a murderous woman who allegedly murdered her son and buried him beneath the floorboards. The brother-in-law, ex-Marine brother-in-law, soon-to-be brother-in-law, shows up and crashes the proceedings, and hauntings ensue, is pretty much the synopsis.
Haunting and hijinks.
Yeah.
So how did this project come together? Because both of you are, I mean, I looked at your IMDb's and got notes. You guys are busy. So where did you even find the time to do this movie?
Well, Wes and I have been writing together now for about 6 years, I think. And we had previously done a digital series together called Indoor Boys. And when we were brainstorming our next project, we had both become totally enamored with horror movies, and especially when the lockdown happened, we were watching like 2 or 3 horror movies a day as just a way to sort of
Escape.
Escape and scratch this itch. And I've always loved horror as long as I can remember, which is, maybe 5 minutes ago, as far back as I can remember. Joke, but I've always loved horror, and so we kind of thought about what can we do to use the conventions, the tropes, and I say tropes positively, to tell a story of queer friendship, to tell a story unlike others that we've seen in the horror genre. And yeah, that's sort of part of how that happened. Wes, you want to take it away?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that we were really inspired by comedy horror too, because we are comedy forward writers, and so we're very verbal in our comedy, and we were like, again, taking those tropes but also adding what we do best to it, and being inspired by also the social commentary thrillers. Get Out was a great model for us, and really trying to explore, a more layered version of maybe the assumptions we make about each other. And but yeah, what he said in terms of ultimately just a celebration of queer friendship and expression.
So, I mean, you kind of answered my next question about why a horror comedy, but
we can talk more about it.
I absolutely. I mean, you've come to the right place to talk about horror, I'm telling you. But you mentioned that you're horror fans, and you in particular kind of explored horror during the lockdown.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you explored and really kind of stuck with you?
Oh man.
Well, I do want to say this too about your first question, why a horror comedy? I think with Wes and I feel that horror and comedy, they're not that different because they're both about timing. They're both about setting an expectation and seeing how that pays off or doesn't pay off, subverts an expectation.
Right. It's about surprise.
Exactly. And so bringing those two things together felt really natural and exciting for us, and a new way to explore what it means to have a punchline, whether that be a long form one or in the short term. So yeah, we were really excited by those two things together. And in terms of our inspirations,
I mean, it was 2020, right? So it's like tough to think about like all of what we consumed, but it was a daily diet, like he said. I mean, I remember lots of horror comedies, of course, like Little Evil and
Happy Death Day.
Happy Death Day, Hide and Seek, The Host. No,
That's yeah. I mean, it's
yeah,
less comedy, but it's a
yeah,
great movie.
yeah.
The Babysitter. That was a Netflix thing that we were having fun with.
Good
Um,
Night, Mommy.
yeah, not a
Not
comedy, but
comedy,
wow,
but
wow, what a
amazing.
movie.
Extremely heavy, but also very fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, we
Uh,
loved seeing the way that these movies were full of twists.
and, and and queer horror too. There was the Midnight Kiss on Hulu. There's a lot of queer horror that, and not I'm not knocking any of these movies, but they do kind of follow that traditional like flesh bait sort of shower scenes and sex scenes and stuff, and that's not necessarily our driving force here. We kind of are less flesh and slitting throats and more suspense and comedy, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the film yet. Apologies. But I loved the idea of a queer movie that isn't about coming out or tragic love or that's not the thing. I
Yeah.
loved that there was a horror comedy. I mean, even Hellbent was about, dating and hooking up and stuff like that. So, it was it's refreshing to see that.
Yeah,
Thank you for saying that.
that's yeah, and that's important to us because our experiences as queer people, there was coming out that exists. That's a huge part of it, but there's a whole life after that. And that life includes groups of friends, and it includes trying to figure out how to have your bachelor party and all the things that can go wrong in the midst of that. And so there's so many other chapters of the queer experience that are worth looking at. And this was a fun way for us to do it.
And I would just add that when Alex and I first started writing together, we would commiserate about how a lot of what we were seeing in terms of our representation only seemed to revolve around illness, death, persecution, coming out, AIDS. I mean, all very real things to talk about and to keep exploring. But why don't we also get the rom-com? Why don't we also get the things that everyone like? Why does it always have to be responsible like that? And we want to be responsible, but I think another responsibility we have is showing gay men thriving
Mm-hmm.
and celebrating each other and actually not like
Even when they're scared.
Yeah, and when we started Indoor Boys, we made a very conscious, that's our digital series before we started writing movies.
Okay.
And it was a very conscious effort to not really talk about the gayness of the characters, to just assume no one has a problem with this and the whole world is accepting of this, which I think a lot of young sort of YA queer shows that I'm watching now, like Heartstopper and Young Royals, and it's such a part of it. I mean, Heartstopper is such a great example of like no one bats an eye at those boys being gay. Like no, it doesn't.
And Schitt's Creek is another great example of that,
Mhm.
of something that is about other things, but these characters happen to be gay and have that experience. But what else is there?
Is that the key to normalization? I mean, is that because that's what we're all kind of aiming for, is just to be like, can we get past this?
Yeah.
You know?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly our version of how to normalize and also make this feel universal. This isn't we're not in this movie, to be clear, is not just for a gay audience.
No, it's for everyone.
Yeah, some of the
kind
best
what a movie is.
responses we've had in our test screenings have been from straight people too, who love it and are able to see that this is a story of friendship. This is a story of a tense relationship between a guy and his future brother-in-law. This is the story of people being spooked out by their surroundings. It's very universal things, and it
Also,
happened.
a universality is the fish out of water, obviously, and a gay character usually is sort of that outsider character, whereas in our film it's slightly subverted, and the straight character is the outsider.
Hmm. Yeah, and speaking of your cast, how how did that all come together? Were you writing with the cast in mind, or did you write and then find the right people?
It
So
was
we
kind of
had,
a mix of
yeah,
things. Oh, sure, sure. Yeah, it was a it was a mix of things. You know, for instance, we were writing with Frankie Grande in mind because Frankie had done Indoor Boys with us, and we knew that we wanted to keep working with Frankie. We knew that Frankie in an acting arena has not gotten his due.
Uh-huh.
And Frankie, you know, he's such a personality. He's so great at being a host. He's great at social media, all that stuff. He's amazing at it. But people haven't seen him do what he's doing in this movie, and we're excited for people to be surprised by
very,
that.
very excited, yeah. And we definitely wrote with him in mind, and we had like readings on Zoom and stuff, you know, when we were developing the script. But ultimately, there were a few people that we offered it to, but mostly we auditioned, and we found some great talent via self tapes during a time when everyone was dislocated and around the country, and yeah, and then
It was
like
really,
callbacks on Zoom and all that.
yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, we filmed this in the summer of 2021. So people were coming from lockdown to our set. It was challenging in that people were out of the house for the first time and trying to figure out how to be there in this new version of the world we were all navigating. But at the same time, it was completely exhilarating because we had created this little world for people to step into and express themselves, and we were all so starved of expression for so long.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I you know what though? Like confession time though. I kind of missed the lockdown.
Oh,
Only because I I had a reason to stay home. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be quite honest, I don't want to sound tone deaf here because it was a terrible time for many people in the world.
it was awful. It
It
was
was
awful.
awful, and but of course, I think a lot of people found their own silver linings
Yeah.
in dealing and coping with the time. And Alex and I found a really beautiful daily work mode of like just 5 hours a day on Zoom, churning out work, and that accountability was life saving. I mean, it 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 gave us purpose, and got us out of bed with drive and energy, and it was a really creatively fulfilling time for us.
Yeah.
So
That
same,
and even though like life was on one hand horrible, it was also simpler, and we were all sort at points unified in our solitude.
yeah, that's real.
It's
And
interesting.
and it was all facilitated by horror. So
That's right.
see, there we go.
Yeah.
So you guys like, as I mentioned before, you guys do a ton of stuff. You've both been on Broadway, both been on television and movies. You guys have a favorite?
uh well, I think we love it all. I mean, I don't ever want to get too much in one medium.
Mhm.
Every time I'm working in one medium, I usually miss the other medium, you know.
Yeah, me too.
But right now, we're both working on things that are really exciting for us. And Alex is working for, you know, in theater, and I'm working on set right now. And it's it's also really exciting for us to just go be actors on someone else's project too, because
Mhm.
we self-generate a lot together, and we have a lot in development, a lot waiting to be produced, and it's nice to sort of like show up to a set, and my only responsibility is hitting my mark and telling the truth, you know, versus when we're wearing our director hat and we don't sleep for a month.
Right.
So yeah,
Oh, you
Now
poor
we're
guys.
getting some sleep. We're getting some sleep now.
it's
Yeah.
like 3 hours a night.
And Alex, you are going to be starring uh, as Max Weinbaum in the production Goodnight Oscar with Sean Hayes. So congrats on that. That's going to be coming April 7th, opening April 7th.
Yes.
Uh,
Thank you.
but
Thank you.
Yeah. Any
Does it open April 7th or start previews April 7th?
Well, it starts previews April 7th, but you can see it April 7th and beyond. You know.
excellent. Do you have any tea from the stage, the set, any rehearsals? How was Sean Hayes?
Oh my God, he is like, he's such a dream. He's the funniest person I've ever met. And after Wes, and
Yeah.
and Sean Hayes has really been one of my heroes for since I was in middle school, and I really can't believe that I'm doing this with him right now. And he's an amazing, kind, hilarious, generous person. I'm like pinching myself every day. Also, I have to say that Wes also is doing a really cool job right now.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and he's allowed, and he just got the clearance that he's allowed to say what it is.
Okay,
So
what is it?
Well, they're by the way, Alex, they just told me they're going to announce this in the next couple of days. But yeah, I'm allowed to talk about it now.
Great.
I'm going to be recurring on Only Murders in the Building season 3.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So
You're gonna wait. Stop. You're gonna get to meet Meryl Streep.
Oh, meet.
we've been on set. Yeah.
They've been hanging out.
So
That's all
Alex
gotta
and
say.
I have a similar thing right now where we're getting to work with some heroes of ours, and it's really exhilarating, to come to work and get to play with your idols, and
It's incredible.
we're both very
Just
lucky.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Wes is
on that one.
he's much cooler. Wes is cooler about it than I am. I'm like, and Wes is very smooth,
Alex, what about when I was texting you about Meryl Streep when she was on the
Oh, quick stories.
No, I
Wait,
mean, I didn't have any cool then. Like right now, I've like.
you have a
had
cool
time.
story of something that you got to show Miss Streep, right? You could say that. It's funny. It's a harmless story.
I know. On set, you're standing around while they set up a shot for a long time,
Sure.
and I was killing time and trying to entertain my friend Ashley across the room, and I just did like a chorus line. In the chorus line audition combination. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I was just doing a little chorus line original choreography, if you will. And Martin Short sees this happening, and he starts yelling, 5, 6, 5, 6, and then suddenly I'm like, and I'm like fully performing in front of 100 people. And Meryl Streep is loving it and just laughing. And she says, "You gotta teach me that dance." And so during our next break, I go find Meryl, and we go find a private little spot on the set. And I teach her the first 12 counts of a chorus line, which I was pretending to be really cool. But inside I was like this.
Okay, you got to teach Miranda Priestley something.
Yeah, exactly.
Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and then we performed it for the cast, and it was it'll go down in the books for me.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I'm so happy you got to have that experience, and congratulations on Only Murders in the Building.
Thank you.
Which I'm horrible. I have yet to watch it, but everyone raves about it. So
you should watch. It's very funny.
It's a great
Alex,
show.
break a leg on stage there.
Thank you so much.
Sean Hayes, and the best of luck with this particular release. The Summoning Sylvia, it comes out limited release March 31st, and available on demand April 7th. Gentlemen, it was an absolute pleasure. Please come back and talk more about anything you have.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We really appreciate it.